I never thought my own brother would be the one to destroy everything we built together. But there he was, standing in our family business's conference room, his hand firmly gripping his wife Catherine's as they delivered the news that would shatter my world. My name is Lexis, and until last Tuesday, I was the creative director of Sullivan Home Furnishings, a business my brother Ethan and I had built from the ground up with our inheritance money. At least, that's what I thought we were building together. The board has decided to go in a different direction, Ethan said, his voice cold and detached. The board he referred to consisted of himself, Catherine, and two of her college friends who'd bought shares last year. Your creative vision doesn't align with our future goals. I gripped the edge of the conference table, my knuckles turning white. Different direction? I brought in 60% of our new clients last quarter. Catherine's perfectly painted lips curved into a condescending smile. Sweetie, your eco-friendly furniture line idea is cute, but it's not profitable. We need to focus on mass production, not saving trees. Those designs are innovative, I shot back. They're what customers want. I've done the research, The decision is final, Ethan cut me off. We're buying out your shares. The paperwork is ready. My eyes burned with unshed tears as I looked at my brother. Mom and Dad would be ashamed of you. Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe? But Catherine squeezed his hand, and his expression hardened again. Don't bring them into this. This is business. Business? I laughed bitterly. Remember when we were kids, and you promised to always have my back? Was that business too? People grow up, Lexis, Catherine interjected. Maybe it's time you did too. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. You've been poisoning him against me since day one, haven't you? That's enough. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. Take the buyout. It's generous. Start fresh somewhere else. The next few hours passed in a blur of paperwork and legal jargon. My hand shook as I signed away my stake in the company. My company. Our company. Later that night, I sat in my best friend Bridget's apartment, nursing a glass of wine while she paced furiously. They can't do this to you, she exclaimed. There must be something. They did it legally, I interrupted. Catherine made sure of that. Bridget stopped pacing and sat beside me. So what now? I took another sip of wine, remembering Catherine's dismissive words about my eco-friendly furniture line. Now, I'm going to prove them wrong. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed Bridget the designs I'd been working on for months. These sustainable furniture pieces, they're just the beginning. I'm going to build something bigger, better, something that matters. You're serious about this? Dead serious. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. They think they've beaten me? They have no idea what I'm capable of. Bridget was quiet for a moment before asking, What do you need? I turned to face her, feeling a surge of determination replace my earlier despair. A business partner who believes in making beautiful things without destroying the planet. Know anyone? A slow smile spread across her face. As a matter of fact, I do. That night, as I lay in Bridget's guest bedroom, I couldn't sleep. My phone kept lighting up with messages from former colleagues expressing their shock and sympathy. I ignored them all except one, from my niece Marley, Ethan's 8-year-old daughter. I miss you already, Aunt Lexis, I typed back. Miss you too, sweetie. Then I blocked Ethan's and Catherine's numbers. They thought they were so clever, pushing me out, treating my ideas like some naive fantasy. But they'd just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Because now I had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. I opened my laptop and started working on a business plan. The sun was rising by the time I finished the first draft, but I didn't feel tired. I felt alive, energized, ready. They wanted to talk about business? Fine. I'd show them exactly what business looked like when you combined passion with purpose. And when I succeeded, not if, when, I'd make sure they had front row seats to watch everything they dismissed turn into gold. Game on, dear brother. Game on. 3 months after the betrayal, I was hunched over my laptop in the tiny office space Bridget and I had rented, surrounded by material samples and prototype sketches. The clock read 2 a.m., but I barely noticed anymore. Late nights had become my new normal. You're still here? Bridget's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. Just finishing these supplier quotes, I said, accepting the coffee gratefully. Did you know bamboo can be processed into the softest fabric? Lex, you need to sleep sometimes. She pulled up a chair beside me. The sustainable furniture industry isn't going to disappear overnight. I gestured at my screen. Look at these numbers. Traditional furniture manufacturing creates tons of waste. If we can perfect our zero-waste process... We will, Bridget interrupted, but not if you burn yourself out first. My phone buzzed. Another Instagram notification. I'd been documenting our journey of creating eco-friendly furniture, and surprisingly, people were interested. Our follower count had grown from 0 to 15,000 in just 2 months. Speaking of which, Bridget said, suddenly animated, remember that investor I mentioned last week, Dexter? I nodded, barely looking up from my spreadsheet. He's coming tomorrow. That got my attention. What? Tomorrow? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because you would have spent 3 days obsessing over the presentation instead of sleeping. She grinned. Which you're about to do anyway, aren't you? We need this, Bridge. I closed my laptop and turned to face her fully. The prototypes are ready, but we need capital to start production. Real production, not just custom pieces. I know. She squeezed my hand. And we're ready. Our business plan is solid, our designs are innovative, and our mission is clear. Dexter's going to love it. A memory flashed through my mind. Catherine's mocking voice. Eco-friendly furniture? Cute. I pushed it away. What time tomorrow? 2 p.m., and yes, you have time to go home and change first. I looked down at my wrinkled shirt and laughed. Point taken. The next morning, I was arranging our prototype displays when my niece Marley's face popped up on my phone. I hesitated before answering. Aunt Lexis, her excited voice filled the room. Guess what? I got the lead in the school play. That's amazing, sweetie. I tried to sound enthusiastic while my heart ached. These calls were becoming harder. Mom says we can't invite you to watch it, she said quietly, but I wanted you to know anyway. I swallowed hard. I'm proud of you, Marley. Break a leg, okay? After hanging up, I stood there for a moment, fighting back tears. Bridget appeared with our presentation materials. Marley? She asked softly. I nodded. Let's make this meeting count, she said, squeezing my shoulder. Show them what they're missing. At exactly 2 p.m., Dexter Fleming walked into our office. He was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, wearing a casual blazer and carrying a reusable water bottle. Good sign. So, he said after introductions, show me why I should invest in sustainable furniture when the market is dominated by cheap, mass-produced alternatives. I picked up one of our prototype chairs. This chair is made from reclaimed wood and recycled metal. The cushioning? Bamboo-based fabric filled with recycled fiber. 0 new trees cut, 0 waste produced. Admirable, he said, running his hand along the smooth surface. But can you scale it? We've already identified suppliers and manufacturers who share our vision. I pulled up our production plans. What we need is capital to meet minimum order requirements. For the next hour, we walked him through everything. Our zero-waste manufacturing process, our direct-to-consumer model, our growing social media following. Your passion is evident, Dexter said finally. But what makes you sure you can succeed where others have failed? I met his eyes. Because this isn't just business for us. Every piece we create means 1 less tree cut down, 1 less ton of waste in landfills. And consumers are ready for change. Our waitlist for custom pieces proves it. He nodded slowly, then reached for his briefcase. I have some concerns about your distribution model, but... He pulled out a folder. Let's talk numbers. After he left, Bridget and I stared at each other in shock. Did that just happen? She whispered. I looked at the preliminary investment agreement in my hands. It did. We're actually doing this. We're doing this, she confirmed, grinning. Ready to show the world what sustainable luxury really looks like? I thought about Marley's play, about Ethan and Catherine, about all the nights I'd spent doubting myself. More than ready. It's time to make some waves. Little did I know just how big those waves would become. 6 months after Dexter's investment, I stood backstage at the Sustainable Living Expo, my heart racing. Our booth had drawn consistent crowds all day, but this was different. Stella Black, eco-conscious celebrity and social media powerhouse, was about to tour the expo. "Stop fidgeting," Bridget whispered, adjusting our display. "You look like you're about to jump out of your skin." Can you blame me? Stella has 20 million followers. One post from her, and we'd be swamped with orders, Bridget finished. I know, but remember what Dexter said. Act like we belong here, I recited. Because we do. The buzz of conversation grew louder, and suddenly there she was, Stella Black, surrounded by her team, stopping at our booth. My mouth went dry. "This is gorgeous," she said, running her hand along our best-selling bamboo lounge chair. "The craftsmanship is incredible." I stepped forward. "Everything we create is sustainable and zero waste. Even the packaging is biodegradable." She turned to me, genuinely interested. "Really? Tell me more." For the next 15 minutes, I walked her through our process, our mission, our vision. She asked intelligent questions about sourcing and manufacturing, clearly more than just a celebrity endorser. "I'm renovating my Malibu home," she said finally. "Would you be interested in furnishing it? Completely eco-friendly, of course." I managed to keep my voice steady. "We'd be honored." "Perfect." She turned to her assistant. "Set up a meeting for next week." Then back to me. I love supporting women-owned businesses that actually care about the planet. After she left, Bridget grabbed my arm. "Did that just happen?" "I think it did." I checked my phone. Stella had already posted about us. Our follower count was skyrocketing. That evening, during our celebration dinner with Dexter, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. "This is just the beginning," Dexter said, raising his glass. "Stella's home will be featured in Architectural Digest. That's massive exposure." "We'll need to scale up production," I said, already making mental notes. "The current facility won't be enough." "Already handled," Dexter replied. "I've secured a larger manufacturing space. Triple the size, still maintaining our eco-friendly standards." Bridget squeezed my hand under the table. We'd done it. Really done it. The next morning, I was in our office early, responding to the flood of inquiries, when I overheard two employees discussing local business news. "Did you hear about Sullivan Home Furnishings?" one asked. "Apparently they're struggling. Lost 3 major contracts last month." I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. "Yeah, heard they're having quality issues, something about cheap materials and bad customer service." I shouldn't have cared. I shouldn't have felt anything. But I did. Later that day, I was reviewing designs for Stella's house when Bridget burst into my office. "Have you seen this?" She thrust her tablet at me. On screen was a business magazine article, "Traditional Furniture Giants Face Modern Challenge, the Rise of Eco-Friendly Alternatives." And there was our company, featured prominently as the leading innovator in sustainable furniture. "Read the comments," Bridget urged. I scrolled down. "Is this the same Lexus who left Sullivan Home Furnishings?" one read. "Talk about karma." My phone rang. Dexter. "I assume you've seen the article," he said when I answered. "There's more. Home and Style magazine wants to feature your story, the female entrepreneur who turned betrayal into $1 million sustainable business." I sat back in my chair. "Should I do it?" "Absolutely. Your story will inspire others. Plus, it's fantastic PR." After hanging up, I opened my personal email, the one I never checked anymore. There were dozens of messages from former colleagues, all sharing the same theme. They should have listened to me. One email caught my eye, from Catherine. Subject: "We should talk." I deleted it without opening it. "You okay?" Bridget asked softly. I looked around our office, at the mood boards for Stella's house, the prototype sketches for our new collection, the team busy at their desks. "Better than okay," I replied. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." My phone buzzed again, Stella's assistant confirming our meeting. As I typed a response, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked different, stronger, more confident. The woman who'd been forced out of her family business was gone. In her place was someone who'd built something meaningful, something that mattered. And this was just the beginning. The Architectural Digest spread featuring Stella's Malibu home hit newsstands on a Wednesday. By Thursday morning, our website had crashed 3 times from traffic overload. "We need better servers," Bridget announced, bursting into my office, "and more customer service staff, and possibly a clone of you." I laughed, but it was strained. I'd been up since 4 a.m. dealing with the overflow of orders. "How's the waiting list looking?" 3 months for custom pieces, but that's not why I'm here. She closed the door. "You need to see this." She pulled up a local business news website. The headline made my stomach drop. Sullivan Home Furnishings faces bankruptcy rumors amid mass layoffs. "There's more," Bridget said quietly. "I was at that networking event downtown last night. People are talking. Ethan's been drinking, showing up late to meetings. Catherine's trying to hold things together, but..." "Not our problem," I said firmly, turning back to my computer. "Lex?" I said it's not our problem. My voice came out sharper than intended. The intercom buzzed. "Ms. Lexis? Dexter's here for the quarterly review." I straightened my desk, grateful for the interruption. "Send him in." Dexter entered, looking pleased. "Have you seen the numbers? Your revenue has tripled since the Stella Black project." "We need to talk about expansion," I said, pulling up our projections. "We can't keep up with demand." "Already ahead of you." He spread out some papers. "I've found a perfect location for a flagship store. Prime retail space, excellent foot traffic." My phone rang. Unknown number. I declined it. As I was saying, my phone rang again. Same number. "Take it," Bridget said. "Could be important," I answered. "Hello?" "Aunt Lexis?" Marley's voice was small, worried. "Dad's crying in his office. Mom said not to bother him, but I'm scared." My throat tightened. "Where's your mom?" "On the phone with lawyers. She doesn't know I'm calling." "Everything's going to be okay, sweetie. Your dad's just dealing with some grown-up stuff." "Are you still mad at them? Is that why you never visit?" Dexter and Bridget were pretending not to listen, studying their papers intently. "It's complicated, Marley, but I'm never mad at you, okay? Or Willie. Dad misses you. He said so last night when he thought I was sleeping." After saying goodbye, I sat in silence for a moment. "Take the rest of the day," Dexter said gently. "We can finish this tomorrow." I shook my head. "I'm fine. The flagship store location?" My phone buzzed with a text. "Ethan. I know Marley called you. Please, we need to talk." "Go," Bridget said firmly. "You won't be able to focus anyway." I ended up at the park where Ethan and I used to play as kids. Sitting on a bench, I watched families enjoying the late afternoon sun. A father was teaching his daughter to ride a bike, just like our dad had done for us. My phone buzzed again. "Catherine this time. I know we don't deserve it, but please hear us out. For the kids." I thought about Marley's voice, small and frightened. About Willie, who probably didn't even remember when I used to babysit him every weekend. A new message from Ethan. "I'm sorry. I know those words mean nothing now, but I am. Please call me." I closed my eyes, remembering the day they forced me out. The humiliation, the betrayal, the weeks of crying myself to sleep. Opening my eyes, I typed, "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the coffee shop on 7th. Ethan replied instantly, "Thank you." That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled up the article about Sullivan Home Furnishings again. The comments were brutal. "That's what happens when you prioritize profit over quality. Karma's a witch." "Heard they pushed out the creative director who actually had vision." My phone lit up with a text from Bridget. "Whatever you decide tomorrow, I've got your back." I walked to my home office, where I kept a photo I couldn't bring myself to throw away. It was from the day we opened Sullivan Home Furnishings. Ethan and me, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. We'd been so happy, so full of dreams. Now I had everything I'd ever wanted. Success, recognition, vindication. So why did it feel like something was still missing? I picked up my phone and typed another message to Ethan. "Bring coffee. You still remember how I take it?" His response came seconds later. Oat milk latte, extra shot, no sugar. Some things you never forget. I put the phone down and stared out the window at the city lights. Tomorrow would either bring closure or open old wounds. I wasn't sure which scared me more. I arrived at the coffee shop 20 minutes early, but Ethan was already there. He looked terrible. His usually immaculate suit was wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. Catherine sat beside him, her perfect posture unchanged, but her designer outfit noticeably last season's. "You came," Ethan said, pushing my coffee across the table. "We weren't sure." "I came for Marley," I said, sitting down. She sounded scared. Catherine flinched. "The children don't know how bad things are. We've tried to shield them." "How bad are things?" Ethan ran a hand through his graying hair. "We're 3 months behind on payroll. The bank's threatening to call our loans. Our biggest supplier just canceled our contract." "What happened?" I asked, even though I already knew. "We cut corners," he admitted. "Cheaper materials, overseas manufacturing. The quality dropped, but we thought we could maintain the profit margins." "The same profit margins you said my eco-friendly line would destroy?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "Lexus," Catherine leaned forward, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "We were wrong, terribly wrong, about everything." "We watched you succeed," Ethan added. "Saw how you built something meaningful while we destroyed what Dad built." I took a sip of my coffee, perfectly made, just as I liked it. "What do you want from me?" "Partnership," Catherine said quickly. "A merger. Your brand is thriving, and you understand this market better than anyone." I laughed, harsh and sharp. "You want me to save you, after what you did?" "We want to make it right," Ethan's voice cracked. "I know we don't deserve it, but Lexus, please. There are 50 families depending on these jobs. And Marley and Willie—" "Don't," I cut him off. "Don't use your children to manipulate me." "It's not manipulation," Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "We're desperate. Yesterday, Marley asked if she could sell her toys to help pay the bills. She overheard us talking and—" I stood up abruptly. "I need some air." Outside, I paced the sidewalk, my hands shaking. Through the window, I could see Ethan comforting a crying Catherine, something I'd never seen before. My phone buzzed. "Bridget, how's it going?" I typed back. "They want a merger." Her response was immediate. "Want me to come down there?" Before I could reply, the coffee shop door opened. Ethan stepped out. "Remember when Dad was sick?" he asked quietly. "You stayed at the hospital every night for 2 weeks while I handled the business." "Don't. You've always been the better person, Lex. The one who cared more about people than profits. I lost sight of that. Lost sight of everything that mattered. You chose Catherine over me. I chose wrong." His voice broke. "I chose wrong about everything, and now I'm about to lose it all, including my children's respect." I turned to face him. "Do you know what it felt like? Sitting in that conference room, watching my own brother betray me?" "No," he whispered. "But I know what it feels like to wake up every day knowing I destroyed the most important relationship in my life. Knowing my little sister will never trust me again." Through the window, I saw Catherine on her phone, probably talking to lawyers. She looked defeated, nothing like the confident woman who'd helped push me out. "If," I said slowly, "and I mean if I considered helping, it would be on my terms, completely." Hope flickered in his eyes. "Anything." "I need time to think, to talk to my team." "Of course." He reached for me, then stopped himself. "Thank you for just listening." Back inside, I gathered my things. "I'll have my lawyers contact you next week." Catherine stood. "Lexus, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I was jealous of your relationship with Ethan, of your creativity, of everything. I let that jealousy poison everything." I nodded stiffly and left, my mind racing. At the office, Bridget was waiting. "Well?" "They're worse off than we thought." I sank into my chair. Catherine actually apologized, like, genuinely apologized. And? And I don't know what to do. I showed her the latest text from Marley. "Thank you for meeting Mom and Dad. I love you, Aunt Lexis. Bridget studied me. You're considering it, aren't you? Maybe. I pulled up our company financials. But if we do this, it's going to be on our terms. Complete rebranding, new management structure, eco-friendly overhaul of their entire operation. You're too good, you know that? I thought about Marley and Willie, about the 50 families facing unemployment, about my brother's broken expression. No, I said quietly. I just remember what Dad always said. Success means nothing if you lose your humanity along the way. Now I just had to figure out how to help my family without losing everything I'd built. Absolutely not, Dexter said, pacing my office. This is business suicide. They'll drag you down with them. I spread out the merger proposal I'd spent 3 days crafting. Look at the numbers. Their manufacturing facility is twice the size of ours. With proper management... Proper management? He stopped pacing. These people betrayed you, Lexis. Have you forgotten that? Trust me, I haven't. I pulled up a spreadsheet. But their facility is perfect for our expansion plans. We'd control everything. Production, management, branding. They'd essentially work for us. Bridget, who'd been quietly observing, spoke up. It's actually brilliant. We get their resources without the baggage of their brand name. And Ethan and Catherine? Dexter demanded. What about them? Ethan knows manufacturing. He can handle operations under our supervision. Catherine... I paused. She'll need to step down. My phone buzzed. Catherine herself. The bank's giving us until Friday. You're too close to this, Dexter insisted, emotionally compromised. Maybe, I admitted, but I'm also right. This is a smart business move, emotions aside. The door opened and Stella Black swept in, early for our scheduled meeting. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing. You're considering a merger with Sullivan Home Furnishings? I nodded, surprised. You know about them? I know everything about my investments. She sat down gracefully. And I think you should do it. Dexter started to protest, but she held up a hand. Think about the story. Eco-conscious female entrepreneur saves failing traditional business, transforms it into sustainable powerhouse. The press will eat it up. This isn't about press, I said. No, she agreed. It's about family. But why can't it be both? Redemption stories sell, darling. And this one's perfect. After they left, I called Ethan. Conference room tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bring Catherine and your lawyers. The next morning, I arrived early to find them already waiting. Catherine's eyes were red-rimmed, Ethan's hands shaking as he clutched his coffee cup. I placed the proposal on the table. This is my offer. Non-negotiable. Their lawyer read it first, eyebrows rising. This is essentially a hostile takeover. No, I corrected. It's a rescue package, with conditions. Catherine reached for the document. Her face paled as she read. You want me to resign? You'll retain your shares, but yes, no management role. And me? Ethan asked quietly. Head of operations, reporting directly to our board. Your manufacturing experience is valuable, but you'll have no executive power. The lawyer leaned forward. This is highly unusual. Take it or declare bankruptcy, I cut in. Your choice. Catherine stood abruptly, tears streaming down her face. I'll be outside. After she left, Ethan studied the proposal. You're rebranding everything? Completely? Sullivan Home Furnishings dies today. Everything will be absorbed into my brand. The employees? Keep their jobs if they meet our standards. We'll provide retraining. He nodded slowly. And us? As family? I met his eyes. That depends on you. This is business, family. That's something we'll have to rebuild separately. Can we? His voice cracked. Rebuild it? Marley called me yesterday, I said. Asked if I'd come to her school play next week. She misses you so much. I miss her too. And Willie. I took a deep breath. Sign the papers, Ethan. Let me fix what you broke, both the business and our family. He picked up the pen. Catherine won't like this. Catherine's pride isn't my concern. Your children's future is. He signed, hand trembling slightly. What do we tell the employees? The truth. That change is coming, but their jobs are secure if they're willing to adapt. After everything was signed, after the lawyers left, after Catherine returned with red eyes to add her signature, Ethan lingered. Thank you, he whispered. Not just for the business, but for giving me a chance to earn back your trust. Don't waste it, I warned. I won't offer another one. That evening, I sat in my office, looking at the signed merger documents. My phone lit up with a text from Marley. Mom's crying, but Dad says everything will be better now. Will you really come to my play? I typed back, front row, sweetie, I promise. Bridget appeared with 2 glasses of champagne. To the new chapter? I took a glass, thinking about the challenges ahead. Retraining staff, rebranding, rebuilding family bonds. To second chances, I corrected. And doing things right this time. Through my office window, I could see the city skyline, the same view I'd had when I started over a year ago. But this time, I wasn't alone in my fight. This time, I was leading the way. The first day of the merger felt like walking into a war zone. I stood before the combined staff in the main manufacturing facility, feeling every eye on me. Change is scary, I began, but necessary. Every person in this room has a place in our future if you're willing to embrace it. A worker raised his hand. We heard rumors about switching to all eco-friendly materials. That'll take months of retraining. Which will provide, I assured him, full pay during the transition. Another voice angry. And Catherine, just pushed out after 15 years? That was my choice, Catherine said, stepping forward. Her voice shook slightly. This company needs new direction. Sometimes leaders have to step aside. I caught her eye, surprised by her support. She gave me a small nod. The questions continued for an hour. I answered each one honestly, even the hostile ones. By the end, the tension had eased slightly. Ethan led the facility tour afterward, explaining current processes. He seemed different, more focused, less arrogant. These machines, he said, patting a huge saw, they're only 3 years old, can be retrofitted for sustainable materials. Good, I nodded. Start with Aunt Lexis. A small figure burst through the door and wrapped around my legs. Willie, followed by an embarrassed-looking Catherine. Sorry, she said. Daycare called. He's got a fever. I had no one else to... My office, I said immediately. There's a couch. He can rest while you finish your handover documents. Willie looked up at me with bright eyes. Can you read me a story? I have meetings, buddy, but... I turned to my assistant. Reschedule everything after 2. Family comes first. Catherine's eyes welled up. Later that afternoon, I sat in my new office, Willie asleep on the couch, when Ethan knocked. Production team's on board, he reported. They're actually excited about the new materials. Good, I gestured to the chair. Sit, we need to talk about Marley's play tomorrow. He sat heavily. Catherine's not handling things well. Might be better if you didn't. I promised Marley. I'm going. It's just, seeing you take her position. She tried to destroy me, Ethan. Actions have consequences. He nodded slowly. I know. We both deserve this. But she's still their mother. Which is why she's keeping her shares. Why she'll still have an income. I looked at Willie, peaceful in sleep. I'm not heartless. No, he agreed. You're better than we were. The next evening, I sat in the school auditorium, watching Marley shine as the lead in Alice in Wonderland. Catherine sat 3 rows ahead, alone. Ethan was beside me. During intermission, I made a decision. I walked to Catherine's row. Come sit with us, I said quietly. She looked up, startled. What? This isn't about us. It's about Marley. Come sit with her family. She followed me back, sitting stiffly beside Ethan. When Marley took her final bow, we all stood together, cheering. Afterward, Marley ran to us, still in costume. Did you see? Did you see me fall down the rabbit hole? You were amazing, sweetie, Catherine and I said simultaneously. We looked at each other, and something shifted. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. Back at the office the next day, Bridget found me reviewing transition plans. Stella called, she announced. The press wants to do a feature. Sisters in Sustainability, about how you're mentoring Catherine through her eco-friendly jewelry line launch. I looked up sharply. Her what? She didn't tell you? She's using her settlement to start over, making jewelry from recycled materials. I sat back, processing this. My phone buzzed. Catherine. Can we talk? About the jewelry line? I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, Lunch tomorrow? Her response was immediate. Thank you. Ethan appeared in my doorway. Production meeting in 5. Also, Marley wants to know if you'll help with her science project. It's about environmental impact. I smiled. Tell her Sunday afternoon. We'll make it a family thing. Family thing, he repeated softly. I like the sound of that. Looking around at what we'd built and rebuilt in just a few weeks, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. The merger wasn't just about business anymore. It was about healing, about second chances, about family. My phone buzzed again. Dexter. Stock price up 15% since merger announcement. Still think I was wrong? I typed back. For once, being right isn't what matters most. Because sometimes, I was learning, the biggest victories aren't about winning at all. They're about finding a way for everyone to move forward together, even if the path there isn't what you expected. The magazine interviewer sat across from me in our newly renovated showroom, surrounded by our latest sustainable furniture collection. So, what's next for your brand? Before I could answer, rapid footsteps approached. Aunt Lexus, look what Mom and I made! Marley burst in, holding up a delicate necklace made from recycled copper and sea glass. Catherine followed, looking apologetic. Sorry to interrupt, she said. We were in the workshop downstairs and she couldn't wait. It's perfect timing, I told the interviewer. This is what's next. Family collaborations. Catherine's eyes widened as I continued. We're launching a home accessories line featuring Catherine's sustainable jewelry and decor pieces, designed to complement our furniture. That's not what we discussed, Catherine stammered. I know. I was waiting for the right moment to suggest it. I turned to the interviewer. Would you like to see the workshop? Downstairs, Ethan was training new staff on our zero-waste manufacturing process. He'd thrown himself into the role, innovating ways to repurpose every scrap of material. Our latest dining table, he explained to the workers, uses reclaimed wood and recycled metal, but the real innovation is in the joinery technique. No chemical adhesives needed. And the sawdust? One worker asked. Goes to Catherine's workshop, he grinned. They're experimenting with wood composite jewelry. The interviewer scribbled frantically. This level of family collaboration is unusual in business, especially given your history. The past is the past, I said firmly. We're focused on building something meaningful together. Later, during our weekly family dinner at my place, Willie proudly showed everyone his science project, a model of our manufacturing facility, complete with tiny solar panels. And here's where we make everything eco-friendly, he explained seriously. Dad taught me all about it. Speaking of teaching, Bridget chimed in, wait until you hear about our latest initiative. I nodded for her to continue. She'd been bubbling with excitement all day. We're launching a mentorship program, she announced, teaching other traditional manufacturers how to transition to sustainable practices. Using our merger as a case study, I added, proving that profit and planet protection can coexist. Catherine set down her fork. That's why you wanted my jewelry line in the showroom, to show it's possible to completely reinvent yourself. Exactly. I met her eyes. Your journey from fast furniture to sustainable jewelry is powerful. It makes people believe change is possible. Family dinner's getting awfully business-focused, Ethan observed, but he was smiling. Fine, I laughed. New rule, no business talk for the rest of dinner. Marley, how's the new school play going? As Marley launched into a detailed description of her role as a tree sprite, I looked around the table. Ethan and Catherine sitting comfortably together, their earlier tension gone. Willie, animatedly explaining his project to Bridget, the family I'd almost lost, now stronger than ever. My phone buzzed. Stella. Architectural Digest wants to feature your whole family's eco-innovation story. Interested? I typed back, let me ask them. Hey, I interrupted Marley's story. How would everyone feel about doing a magazine feature? All of us together? Even me? Catherine asked quietly. Especially you. Your story matters too. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand, the first time she'd initiated contact since the merger. On one condition, Ethan said. We include the photo of us from opening day of the original store. Show how far we've come. Deal. I raised my glass. To family, the ones who challenge us, change us, and choose to grow with us. To family, they echoed. After dinner, as everyone helped clean up, a new tradition, Marley tugged my sleeve. Aunt Lexis, are you still mad at Mom and Dad sometimes? I knelt to her level. Sometimes feelings are complicated, sweetie. But you know what's not complicated? Loving you and Willie, and knowing that working together is better than fighting. She hugged me tight. I'm glad you're not gone anymore. In the kitchen, Catherine was loading the dishwasher. I heard that, she said softly. She's right. Having you back, it's better. We're better. We are, I agreed. All of us. Through the window, I could see Ethan showing Willie the stars, pointing out constellations like our dad used to do. Bridget was gathering her things, declining Catherine's offer to share her car service home. This was my reality now. Not just success, but family. Not just winning, but growing. Not just leading, but lifting others up along the way. And somehow, that felt like the biggest victory of all.
The gentle dusk was fading away. Through the living room window, the setting sun cast a soft orange glow on the white walls. Catherine Reynolds had finished her work at the pharmacy, completed her grocery shopping, and returned home as usual. I'm home, Madison. As she opened the door, her 6-year-old daughter came running, her pigtails bouncing. Welcome home, Mom. Today in art class, I drew a really good bunny. Madison proudly showed her school handout. Indeed, there was a lovingly drawn rabbit on the paper. My, that's wonderful. It looks just like Hoppy, Catherine said, pointing to her daughter's precious stuffed animal. The pink long-eared rabbit sat in its usual spot on the sofa. While preparing dinner, Catherine checked the clock repeatedly. It was time for her husband James to return. As a construction site supervisor, he had always maintained a punctual lifestyle. Is Daddy going to be late again? Madison asked anxiously. Yes, he has a site meeting today. In reality, Catherine and James had been separated for nearly a month. She could only explain to Madison that Daddy is busy with work. The dining table was set for 2 instead of the usual 3. It had been a month since she'd taken refuge at her friend Sarah's home. They were living with minimal belongings in a small apartment. Let's eat. Mother and daughter said grace together. Recently, Madison had been crying more at night. Her teacher reported that she seemed less energetic at school. It broke Catherine's heart. She remembered meeting James 7 years ago at a friend's wedding. During the first dance, he had smiled at her so kindly. She thought he was sincere, caring, and the ideal man. After marriage, they bought a house in a quiet residential area of Columbus, Ohio. A white 2-story home with a small backyard. They attended church every Sunday and maintained good relationships with their neighbors. It seemed like a family everyone would envy. But now, she was living off her savings. She had changed her phone number and cut off all but essential contact. Mom, I'm full. Madison's voice brought Catherine back to reality. As she cleared the finished plates, she looked out the window. The sun had set, and it was already dark. She drew the curtains shut out of habit. Only her friend Sarah understood and supported their situation. Through her lawyer, she was working on custody arrangements, but the end wasn't yet in sight. Well then, it's bath time. Okay. Can Hoppy take a bath with me? No, dear. Hoppy needs to stay here on guard duty. He'll get wet, you know. As she spoke, Catherine gently stroked her daughter's head. What could she do to protect this precious life? As she searched for that answer, another day was quietly coming to an end. At night, in Sarah's apartment living room, Catherine had Madison on her lap. The small two-seater sofa was a bit worn, but it was just the right size for mother and daughter to cuddle. Cheerful songs played from the television. Mom, I wish I could do magic like Elsa. Madison hugged her beloved Hoppy, watching TV with dreamy eyes. A few building blocks and crayons were scattered on the floor, creating their usual peaceful evening scene. Yes. But you have something more wonderful than magic. What is it? A promise with me. No matter what happens, I promise to protect you. Catherine gently stroked her daughter's hair. Outside the window, it was already pitch dark, and as usual, the heavy curtains were tightly drawn. Suddenly, the TV screen changed. With a sharp warning sound, red breaking news text covered the screen. Breaking news. As the announcer's voice echoed, the word "wanted" appeared in the upper left corner. And in the center, prominently displayed. Catherine Reynolds, age 34. Wanted nationwide for allegedly abducting 6-year-old Madison Reynolds. The suspect may be dangerous. Catherine's driver's license photo was now being broadcast across the nation. A deafening silence dominated the room. Mom, is that your picture? Madison's voice trembled. Her small body clung to her mother. Madison, it's okay. I will. She didn't have a chance to finish. Heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. Multiple police sirens echoed through the street. Then violent knocking shook the entire apartment. Madison let out a small scream. It's all right. I'm here with you. Catherine instinctively shielded her daughter. The next moment, the door burst open with a loud bang. Bright flashlights illuminated the room as police officers in black bulletproof vests entered with guns drawn. Put your hands up, slowly. Please, don't frighten my daughter. Catherine pleaded with a trembling voice. But the situation was already beyond her control. Cold handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Madison's anguished screams filled the air. A female child protective services worker approached Madison, gently but firmly. It's okay, Madison. We'll see each other soon. Trust me. Catherine forced out the words. But before she could know if they reached her daughter, mother and child were separated. Curious neighbors had already begun to gather. Police sirens continued to wail, and news cameras flashed their lights. Suspect secured, child victim safely in custody. The clinical voice crackled over the radio. As Catherine was pushed into the police car, she watched another car carrying Madison. A small hand was pressed against the rear window. The street lights illuminated a growing crowd of onlookers. Smartphone cameras flashed. By tomorrow morning, this footage would be on the news. The police car started moving. Sarah's apartment grew smaller in the rearview mirror. Just 15 minutes ago, they had been spending a peaceful evening there. Everything had changed so suddenly. Catherine wiped away tears with her cuffed hands. Absolutely, without fail. She whispered her vow in the dark car. This wasn't the end. She would reveal the truth and get her daughter back. Until then, she would never give up. In the darkness of night, only the red lights of the sirens continued to flash, symbolizing this abnormal situation. In the interrogation room at the Columbus Police Department, the walls were an institutional gray. The fluorescent ceiling lights cast a harsh white glow that emphasized Catherine's exhausted expression. Metal chairs faced each other across a scratched office table. A large mirror covered one wall, the usual one-way window of interrogation rooms. A surveillance camera silently watched the scene from the corner. 11:45 p.m. 3 hours had passed since her arrest. The door opened, and a young female detective entered. Her new badge gleamed dully under the fluorescent lights. Mrs. Reynolds. The detective placed a thick file on the desk. My daughter, is Madison all right? Catherine's voice was hoarse. The image of her crying daughter was still burned into her mind. She's under Child Protective Services care. Given your situation, it's the best course of action. The detective sat down and opened the file. Mrs. Reynolds, you have the right to remain silent. An attorney. That won't be necessary. I'll tell you everything. But first, please tell my daughter. Tell her I'm okay. Tell her not to be afraid. Tears spilled from Catherine's eyes. The detective showed a momentary look of confusion but quickly returned to her professional demeanor. Then, could you explain what happened on October 15th? A photograph was pulled from the file. It was a still from a supermarket security camera, showing Catherine with an apparently enraged expression. That's not. We have other evidence. More evidence was presented. A medical report, signs of violence against husband noted. Witness statements from neighbors, often heard her yelling harshly at her daughter lately. Records from Madison's school, child shows extreme avoidance of mother-related topics. Records of suspicious cash withdrawals, signs of preparation for flight. It's all a misunderstanding. Catherine desperately tried to explain. But no matter what words she formed, they seemed inadequate against the mountain of evidence before her. Mrs. Reynolds, you. Just then, there was a knock at the door. The attorney has arrived. The detective had to temporarily suspend the interrogation. The sound of her footsteps faded as she left the room. Catherine sighed deeply and looked up at the ceiling. The fluorescent light illuminated her like the judgment light of a courtroom. The clock was approaching midnight. James, why? She whispered her husband's name. 7 years of marriage. Their vows in church. Memories of happy days. All of it now taking on a different color. And above all, Madison. What thoughts must be going through her mind tonight in that strange place? Did she have her beloved Hoppy with her? Was she able to sleep? The door opened again. "Catherine Reynolds, I'm Robert Mitchell. I'll be handling your defense." A lawyer in his mid-50s entered. His mild expression contained unmistakable strength. "First, let's organize the situation." Mitchell began pulling documents from his briefcase. "This will be a long battle. But the truth will surely come to light. For that, we need to carefully examine each piece." In those words, Catherine found a glimmer of hope. Midnight at the police station. Only the interrogation room light remained on, unextinguished. No one waited for her return, no one came to meet her. Only somewhere, a 6-year-old girl waited for her mother's return. That thought alone sustained Catherine's heart. Attorney Mitchell began reviewing the documents. A new night of battle was quietly beginning to dawn. At the Columbus Police Department's Major Cases Investigation Division, even past 2 a.m., the detective's desk light remained on. Something's not right. She was reviewing the mountain of evidence spread across her desk for the umpteenth time. While there was certainly pressure as a rookie detective assigned to a major case, something beyond that nagged at her. The security monitor displayed Catherine at the supermarket. On screen, she certainly appeared enraged. However, "Murphy, got a minute?" The detective called out to her colleague who specialized in digital forensics. "Can you analyze this footage? Particularly the 30 seconds before and after this scene." Murphy frowned as he examined the footage on the monitor. "Give me a moment." The sound of typing keyboard echoed through the silent office. And then, "Oh." There was a hint of surprise in Murphy's voice. "This has been edited. Professional job, hard to notice, but there are traces." The detective's intuition had been correct. The footage had been skillfully manipulated. Next, she focused on the medical records. James Reynolds's arm injury diagnosis. Date, October 15, 3 p.m. Wait. The detective checked the time stamp on the security camera footage. October 15, 3:15 p.m. This is physically impossible. It would take at least 30 minutes by car from the clinic to the supermarket. Traffic would likely be heavy at that time. "Captain. I've found something important." Division Captain Thomas Bradley had just returned with coffee. "Look at this." As she pointed out the time discrepancy, Bradley sighed deeply. "To be honest, I've been concerned too." The captain pulled a file from his desk drawer. "These are James Reynolds's past records. His position at work, his reputation at church, everything is too perfect. Almost as if it were fabricated." The detective completed his thought. Just then, a young officer rushed in. Suspicious manipulation traces had been found in the Reynolds account records. Moreover, there were signs of professional-level tampering. "Captain, we need to question Catherine Reynolds again." But it was already past 3 a.m. "First thing tomorrow morning. Tonight, focus on examining the evidence." Though following these orders, the detective couldn't settle down. Catherine spending the night in detention. Madison in protective custody. And James, presumably spending the night normally at home. We need to recheck the witness statements too. The detective spread out the neighbors' testimonies. As she read through them, new suspicions arose. The wording of the testimonies was unnaturally similar. Almost as if they were speaking from a script. Murphy. One more favor. Can you check James Reynolds's company computer access records? Especially the past month. A construction site supervisor. That meant access to building plans and schedule data. And with that, advanced digital editing software. Oh. Murphy's voice echoed through the silent office. Found it. Definitely unusual access logs outside work hours. All the evidence was slowly but surely beginning to point in one direction. The detective stood up and stared at the case timeline posted on the wall. It included the record of when James Reynolds reported the kidnapping by wife. The report was too perfect. She remembered that scene. A husband who remained composed, providing necessary information without excess or deficiency. Almost as if it had been prepared. The detective turned to her superior with firm resolve. I'd like to request an arrest warrant for James Reynolds. Outside was still dark, with time remaining until dawn. However, the light of truth had definitely begun to shine. In the corner of the office, the night shift officer turned up the volume on the TV. Last night's breaking news was still being repeated. Model mother in kidnapping case. That headline now seemed ironic. I will uncover the truth. As the desk clock struck 4, the detective began preparing a new report. By the time the sun began to rise, James Reynolds had been summoned to the station. My detective. I apologize for such an early morning visit. James appeared in a perfect suit. His usual gentle smile played on his face. Mr. Reynolds, this way please. The interrogation room was where Catherine had sat last night. The same gray walls, the same fluorescent light. But this morning, the air was different. We made some interesting discoveries last night. The detective began in a calm voice. Did you know? Security camera footage retains traces of editing. For a moment, James's expression tightened. And the timing between the medical report and the footage. A physical impossibility. I don't know what you mean. There's more. Evidence was presented one after another. Traces of unnatural manipulation in bank records. Suspicious access to company computers. And witness statements unnaturally consistent. It was too perfect. The detective said quietly. Your plan was too perfect. At that moment, all previous gentleness vanished from James's expression. Can you prove it? We already have the warrants. The door opened, and multiple officers entered. James Reynolds, you're under arrest for evidence tampering, false reporting, and... The sound of handcuffs echoed. Why? Just before his arrest, James muttered. I wanted to be a perfect father. Someone everyone would acknowledge as perfect. At that time, Catherine was watching from the adjacent interrogation room. Through the one-way mirror, she observed her husband's transformed appearance. Mrs. Reynolds. The detective entered the room. All charges against you have been cleared. And... The door opened, and Madison burst in, holding Hoppy in both hands. Madison. Catherine embraced her daughter. Tears flowed. I'm sorry for frightening you. No, you didn't do anything wrong. I believed in you. Madison clung to her mother, sobbing. The morning sun streaming through the window gently enveloped mother and daughter. Mrs. Reynolds. The detective called out. Things might be difficult from here on, but... Yes, we'll be fine. Catherine smiled. We have each other. While holding Madison, she said. A new beginning. That's all I want to think about now. The police station lobby was already filled with reporters. But this time, they would report the truth. And the story of a mother and daughter's bond. Let's go, Madison. Yes. Mother and daughter walked hand in hand into the new morning light. 3 months after the incident, on a winter Saturday morning. Madison, time to wake up. Catherine was preparing breakfast in their new apartment's living room. Though small, the apartment had a view of the park. Several of Madison's drawings decorated the walls. Good morning, Mom. Madison appeared in the living room, rubbing her eyes. Still in her pajamas, hugging her faithful Hoppy. Today's exciting, isn't it? The table was set with pancakes and fruit. Madison's favorites. Yes. We get to see everyone. After the incident, Madison had been receiving counseling and now participated in a support group for children with similar experiences. There, she had found new friends and was gradually regaining her smile. Hey Mom, is Daddy still? Sometimes, Madison asked about her father. Daddy is dealing with his own problems right now. James had been released on bail but was awaiting trial. He was also required to receive psychiatric counseling. But Madison, if you want to see him. It's okay for now, Madison shook her head. I have you with me, Mom. Catherine felt her heart swell with emotion. She was set to return to her position at the pharmacy next month. Her colleagues had said they would warmly welcome her back. Sarah continued to support mother and daughter as a dear friend. Oh, I need to write my letter. Madison hurried back to her room. Writing thank you letters to the detective had become her recent daily routine. Catherine stood by the window and looked outside. In the park, she could see people enjoying their early morning jogs. An ordinary, peaceful morning scene. But she understood deep in her heart just how precious that ordinary truly was. Mom, look. Madison brought over a picture she had drawn. It showed a mother and daughter holding hands and smiling. Flowers bloomed all around them. That's a beautiful picture. Yes. Because we're happy now. At those words, Catherine hugged her daughter tightly. Indeed, this was a new beginning. And they were not alone in it. Outside the window, the winter sky was gradually brightening. A new day was beginning, quietly but surely, filled with hope. In a small apartment bedroom bathed in morning sunlight, 28-year-old Darla was going through her usual routine of attaching her prosthetic left arm. As she gazed at her reflection in the mirror, memories of her childhood accident flooded back. She had lost her left arm in a traffic accident when she was 9. Yet, there was a strong determination in her eyes. Another day to do my best, Darla whispered to herself. With practiced movements, Darla slipped into her suit and pulled her hair back. It had taken her a long time to master doing these things with one arm, but now she could manage her daily routine without much difficulty. In the kitchen, her husband Mac was preparing breakfast. At 30, Mac worked as a programmer at an IT company. Darla couldn't help but feel blessed seeing his gentle smile as he greeted her. "Good morning, Darla." "Good luck with your meeting today," Mac said. "Thanks. I hope your new project goes well too," Darla replied. They had met 3 years ago when Mac was assigned to the IT department at the department store where Darla worked. Their relationship evolved from colleagues to friends, and eventually to lovers. Mac never once made an issue of Darla's disability, falling in love with her strength and kindness. However, their relationship faced a significant obstacle: Mac's mother, Eleanor. At 55, Eleanor came from a wealthy background and was well known in social circles. While outwardly devoted to charitable causes, she harbored deep-seated prejudices. Eleanor strongly opposed their marriage. "Marrying someone with a disability? What will become of your future?" she tried to persuade Mac. But Mac stayed true to his love for Darla, and they held their wedding ceremony 2 years ago. Though Eleanor reluctantly attended the wedding, her cold gaze remained unchanged to this day. Despite this, Darla and Mac enjoyed a happy newlywed life. Darla took pride in her work at the department store. While working in customer service, she also helped support customers with disabilities, drawing from her own experiences. Well respected by her colleagues, Darla led a fulfilling life. One evening, Darla wasn't feeling well. Mac asked with concern, "Are you okay? You look pale." Darla shrugged. "I'm just tired, I think." But when the symptoms persisted, they decided to visit the hospital. There, they received unexpected news. "Congratulations. You're pregnant, Darla," the doctor announced. Darla and Mac exchanged looks of surprise and joy. However, worry soon clouded Darla's expression. "But with my body, can I raise a baby?" Darla said in a small voice. Mac gently squeezed his wife's hand. "It'll be fine. We'll make it work together." Encouraged by her husband's words, Darla gave a small nod. Yet anxiety swirled in the depths of her heart. She wasn't ready for this new chapter in her life. And there was another major concern: how to break this news to Eleanor. Darla shuddered at the mere thought. That night, lying in bed, Darla and Mac talked about their future. Though their conversation was filled with hope, there was a slight tension in their voices. They had resolved to face this new challenge together. Darla and Mac stood before Eleanor's mansion. The marble columns and meticulously maintained gardens spoke of its luxury. Darla took a deep breath and squeezed her husband's hand. "It'll be okay," Mac smiled gently. "We're in this together." When they rang the doorbell, a maid greeted them. They were led into a spacious living room where crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling and antique furniture adorned the space. Eleanor sat gracefully on the sofa. Her perfect makeup and expensive jewelry clearly displayed her social status. Mac, Darla, Eleanor greeted them in a cool voice. "What brings you here today?" Mac cleared his throat before speaking. "Mother, we have important news." Darla felt her body stiffen with tension as Eleanor's sharp gaze turned to her. "Darla is pregnant," Mac announced, unable to contain his joy. "We're going to be parents." After a moment of silence, Eleanor's expression transformed. Anger and disgust distorted her elegant features. "Don't be ridiculous," Eleanor said in a low voice. "A one-armed person having a child. It's a disgrace to this family." Darla was speechless. Mac raised his voice in protest. "Mother. That's not." "Be quiet." Eleanor stood and walked toward Darla. "Do you understand how difficult it will be for a disabled mother to raise a child? How much that child will suffer?" Darla responded with a trembling voice. "I can do it. With Mac." "How foolish," Eleanor sneered. "Get an abortion immediately. That's the best choice." Mac grabbed his mother's arm. "Stop it. This is our child. Our decision." Eleanor shook off her son. "You don't understand how society will view this. What will become of our position?" Darla stood up, fighting back tears. "This is our child. We will raise it with love." Hatred flickered in Eleanor's eyes. "Fine. But remember, this is your choice. Don't come crying when you regret it." After that day, Eleanor's attitude changed completely. Her superficial kindness vanished, replaced by obvious harassment. Anonymous calls began coming to Mac's company, and his reputation steadily deteriorated. One day, Mac came home with a dejected expression. "My promotion, it was cancelled." Darla embraced her husband. "Why? You've been working so hard." Mac shrugged tiredly. "I don't know. But I think Mother's behind it." Eleanor's influence extended further than they had imagined. Pressure began mounting at Darla's department store too, and her work environment gradually worsened. One day, when Darla returned from work, Eleanor was waiting in front of their house. "What do you want?" Darla asked cautiously. Eleanor looked down at Darla with cold eyes. "This is your last chance. Get an abortion." Darla shook her head. "I can't. This baby is our treasure." Eleanor's expression twisted. "You're defective. And that child will be too. I won't allow you to bring shame to this family." Those words cut deep into Darla's heart. She ran into the house crying. Mac's attitude began to change gradually too. The stress from work had stripped away his former gentleness. He worked late into the night and came home exhausted. His words to Darla became short, and sometimes he couldn't hide his irritation. One night, Darla gathered her courage to ask, "Mac, are we okay?" After a long silence, Mac sighed. "I don't know. Everything's so confused. I'm starting to understand what Mother was saying." Those words froze Darla. A deep crack began forming in her heart. Their once happy home was on the verge of collapse. Darla tried desperately to cling to hope, but anxiety and loneliness enveloped her. At 5 months pregnant, Darla's belly was gradually growing, but the atmosphere around her grew colder by the day. She kept questioning herself. What would happen? Could she raise this child happily? And the most frightening question, would Mac really stay by her side and their child's? Standing by the window, Darla watched the rain outside. A week had passed since Mac had been called back to his family home. There had been no contact from him, and her anxiety grew with each passing day. The phone rang, and Darla rushed to answer it. Mac. Darla, Eleanor's cold voice rang out. Mac won't be coming back. I'll send someone to collect his things. Darla was at a loss for words. But, we're separating. That's what Mac wants, Eleanor said mercilessly. After the call ended, Darla collapsed to the floor. Feeling the baby move, she desperately fought back tears. As days passed, Darla's life became increasingly difficult. Without Mac's salary, their savings began to run out. Her work at the department store became physically challenging as her pregnancy progressed. One day, the landlord visited. Miss Darla, you're 3 months behind on rent. If you can't pay by next month. Darla bowed desperately. Please wait a little longer. I'll definitely pay. However, she couldn't gather the rent money by the promised date. At 7 months pregnant, Darla packed her few belongings and left the apartment. With nowhere else to go, she headed to a nearby park. Sitting on a bench, Darla felt lost. As night approached and the cold set in, she whispered, "It's okay," while stroking her belly. "Mama will protect you." Life in the park was harsher than she had imagined. Getting food was a struggle, sometimes forcing her to search through supermarket waste for anything edible. Nights required constant vigilance, making it impossible to sleep properly. Unable to attend prenatal checkups, Darla spent her days filled with anxiety. "I wonder if you're doing okay, baby," she would talk to her belly every day. Rainy days were especially hard. One day, as she shivered under a bench without an umbrella, completely soaked, she suddenly heard a voice. "Darla. Is that really you?" Looking up, she saw her former colleague Vanya standing there. "Oh my! Why are you here?" Darla felt tears welling up. Vanya embraced her without hesitation and said, "Come to my place." Vanya's apartment was small, but to Darla, it felt like heaven. Taking a warm shower and sleeping in a bed for the first time in ages. Vanya listened quietly to Darla's story and promised whatever support she could offer. "Thank you, Vanya," Darla said with heartfelt gratitude. "Of course. That's what friends are for," Vanya smiled kindly. Living together in the small apartment wasn't easy. Darla constantly worried about being a burden. However, Vanya never showed any signs of minding, and instead worried about Darla's health. "The baby seems healthy," Vanya said, placing her hand on Darla's belly. "They'll be strong, just like their mother." Darla smiled, but anxiety still churned inside her. What would happen next? Would Mac come back? Could she raise a child alone? When Darla entered her 9th month of pregnancy, Vanya's night shifts increased. "For living expenses," she said, but Darla felt overwhelmed with guilt. One midnight, Darla woke to severe abdominal pain. No way. She looked at the clock. Vanya wouldn't be back for hours. The pain intensified. Darla desperately tried to breathe deeply. "Not yet, baby. Just wait a little longer." But the contractions grew closer together. Darla made a decision. She didn't want to burden Vanya. Struggling to her feet, she left a note and walked out. The night park was eerily quiet. Darla headed toward her familiar bench. "We can do this, just us," she tried to convince herself. Under the moonlight, a pregnant woman walked through the park. Her figure looked painfully lonely. Darla slowly sat down on the bench, fighting through the pain. "Okay, baby," she whispered. "This is the beginning of our new life together." And then, her cries broke the night's silence. The park at midnight was wrapped in an eerie stillness. Darla sat on the cold bench, enduring intense contractions. "Someone, please help," she whispered softly, but there was no one around. Pain washed over her like waves. Darla kept taking deep breaths, desperately trying to stay calm. "It's okay, baby. Mama will do her best." She spotted a figure in the distance and felt hope rise. "Excuse me. Please help," she called out with all her might. But the figure merely glanced at her before hurrying away. Despair washed over her. Darla cursed her situation through tears. Why did it come to this? Meanwhile, at Vanya's apartment, Vanya had returned home to find Darla missing and was panicking. "Darla? Darla, where are you?" She searched the entire apartment but found only a note on the bed. "I'm sorry, Vanya. I didn't want to be a burden." "You fool!" Vanya cried out. She immediately threw on her coat and ran outside. "Where are you, Darla?" Vanya desperately ran through the streets, checking the park, the station, and every place she could think of where Darla might go. Her anxiety grew with each passing minute. By then, Darla's condition was rapidly deteriorating. The contractions were getting closer together, and she could barely move. "Please, someone." Suddenly, a flashlight beam illuminated her. "Darla." It was Vanya's voice. "Vanya." Darla broke into tears of relief. Vanya quickly checked Darla's condition and tried to call an ambulance on her phone. But she discovered the battery was dead. Damn it! Just then, a middle-aged man walking his dog approached. "Are you all right?" Vanya explained the situation and borrowed the man's phone to call an ambulance. However, they said it would take time to arrive. "The baby, it's coming." Darla groaned. Vanya and the man exchanged glances. "We'll have to deliver here," Vanya decided. The three worked together to prepare for an improvised delivery. Vanya held Darla's hand while the man spread out blankets. "Come on, Darla. You can do this." Vanya encouraged. Darla pushed with all her might, showing strength that belied her disability. "Ugh, ah. I can see the head." Vanya cried out. Darla gathered her last reserves of strength. And then, just before dawn, a strong baby's cry echoed through the park. "Congratulations, Darla. It's a boy," Vanya announced through tears. Darla smiled through her exhaustion. But when she cradled the baby, she gasped in surprise. Both arms are." Contrary to expectations, the baby's arms were perfectly formed. Darla cried tears of joy and relief. Just then, they heard the ambulance sirens. Darla and the baby were quickly transported to the hospital. Meanwhile, Mac had noticed Darla's disappearance days ago and had been desperately searching the city. Having realized his mother's manipulation, he had cut ties with her and was trying to return to Darla. "Darla, where are you?" Mac walked through the streets, exhausted. By chance, he witnessed an ambulance transport. Something about the figure being loaded inside seemed familiar. Could it be? Mac chased after the ambulance. At the hospital, Mac desperately inquired at reception. Finally, he found Darla's room. Opening the door, he saw Darla holding their baby in bed. "Darla." Darla looked up and their eyes met. "Mac." Silence fell between them. Then Mac rushed forward and embraced both Darla and the baby. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Darla accepted Mac's embrace through tears. "You came back." Just then, the baby moved. Mac got his first good look at his child's face. How beautiful. Then his eyes caught something on the baby's right arm. "This is." Darla noticed it too. There was a distinctive birthmark on the baby's right arm. "This birthmark?" Mac exclaimed in surprise. "It's a hereditary trait in my family." They exchanged glances. While they didn't yet fully understand the implications of this discovery, they sensed it connected to something significant. The room was bathed in morning light, as if blessing the birth of this new family. Darla, Mac, and their baby. Many trials might still await them, but in this moment, they were enveloped in pure joy. When Eleanor entered the hospital room, the air froze for a moment. Her sharp eyes fixed on the baby in Darla's arms. "Both arms," Eleanor muttered. Her voice mixed surprise with something else. Mac spoke quietly but firmly, "Mother, don't you have something to tell us?" Eleanor sighed deeply and slowly sat down. She looked different from her usual dignified self, somehow tired. "I had a dear friend," Eleanor began quietly. "Her name was Nellie, and we were best friends since college." Darla and Mac listened intently. It was the first time Eleanor had ever shared something so personal. She too had one arm. Eleanor's voice trembled slightly. "She lost her left arm in an accident, but she lived life positively afterward. I respected her for that, and even envied her." Eleanor paused for a moment, then continued, "But 20 years ago, she lost her life in a traffic accident." "Wait," Mac interrupted. "Then Darla is?" Eleanor nodded slowly. "Yes, Darla is Nellie's daughter." Shock rippled through the room. Darla held the baby tighter, staring at Eleanor with a confused expression. "Why?" Darla's voice shook. "Why didn't you ever?" Eleanor closed her eyes, as if recalling the past. "After the accident, I tried to atone for my mistakes. I who had failed to truly understand Nellie, at least tried to." She wiped away tears. "But I didn't have the courage to raise you myself. So I arranged for you to be adopted by a good family. And I watched over you from afar." Mac was stunned. "Mother, why did you keep silent all this time?" "I was ashamed," Eleanor answered. "I couldn't face my own weakness and past mistakes, and every time I saw Darla, my guilt about Nellie would resurface." Darla quietly asked, what kind of person was my real mother? Nostalgia and regret filled Eleanor's eyes. Just like you. Strong, kind, and very brave. She looked at the baby's right arm. And that distinctive birthmark. Nellie had it too. She said it ran in her family. Mac asked in surprise, but this birthmark runs in our family too. Eleanor's face showed surprise. Could it be such a coincidence? Darla looked at her prosthetic arm, then at the birthmark on her baby's arm. Everything was starting to connect. But why did you treat me so? Darla carefully chose her words. Eleanor exhaled deeply. Every time I saw you, I was reminded of my mistakes. Of my failure to understand Nellie, and I tried to push you away to escape that guilt. Heavy silence filled the room. Each of them tried to process this sudden truth. Darla looked at her baby with mixed emotions. Inside her, anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief swirled together. The existence of her birth mother, the unexpected connection with Eleanor. All the puzzle pieces of her life were gradually falling into place. Mac glanced between his mother and wife. Various emotions crossed through him too: surprise, confusion, and slowly dawning understanding. Eleanor felt, for the first time, an urge to hold her grandchild. But she told herself she hadn't earned that right yet. I don't expect to be forgiven, Eleanor said quietly. But if possible, could we start over? For Nellie's sake, for all of you. Darla and Mac exchanged glances. After a long silence, Darla slowly spoke. It might take time. But, let's move forward, step by step. I want to learn more about my mother too. Tears welled up in Eleanor's eyes. It was a release of emotions she had suppressed for years. Thank you, Eleanor said softly. I've kept all of Nellie's photos and mementos. I've been saving them, hoping to show them to you someday. The morning sunlight streaming through the window gently embraced this family, newly bound together. A long road still lay ahead of them. It would take time to heal old wounds and build new relationships. But in this moment, on the foundation of truth, they were ready to take their first step forward. The baby made a small sound, drawing the attention of all three. As Darla gently soothed the baby, smiles naturally appeared on Eleanor and Mac's faces. This tiny life became a symbol of their new beginning. Moving forward from past pain and regret toward a future filled with love and understanding. It wouldn't be an easy journey. But in this moment, a light of hope burned in their hearts. The air in the hospital room felt heavy. Darla, Mac, and Eleanor gazed at each other, while the baby slept peacefully in Darla's arms. Eleanor took a deep breath and spoke. Darla, Mac, and this little one. I am truly sorry. At those words, as if a dam of long-suppressed emotions had broken, tears began flowing from Darla's eyes. Why? Darla's voice trembled. Why did you keep silent all this time? I had a right to know. Mac stood supporting Darla with a hand on her shoulder, his eyes mixing anger with sadness. Eleanor bowed her head deeply. I was afraid. The pain of losing Nellie, the guilt of not being able to raise you myself. I didn't have the courage to face it. But that's no excuse, Mac said harshly. do you understand how much Darla has suffered? Eleanor raised her face, looking at Darla through tear-clouded eyes. I know. My prejudice and weakness hurt you. It's a mistake I can never fully atone for. Holding her baby close, Darla said quietly, I don't know if I can forgive you yet. But for this child's sake, and for my own, I want to move forward. Eleanor slowly stood and tentatively approached Darla. Please give me a chance. I want to love you and this child, for Nellie's sake too. And I want to make right my own mistakes. Mac looked between his wife and mother, letting out a deep sigh. It won't be easy. But I hope we can overcome this together, as a family. The atmosphere in the room softened slightly at those words. For our new family, Darla gave a small smile. One step at a time. Eleanor shed grateful tears as she properly looked at her grandchild's face for the first time. Just like Nellie, she whispered tenderly. A few days later, Darla was preparing to leave the hospital. As Mac packed their belongings, Eleanor quietly entered the room. Darla, this is. She held out a photograph. It showed a young Eleanor with a one-armed woman, both smiling. This is Nellie. Your mother. Darla accepted the photo, staring at it intently. Thank you, her voice shook with emotion. As the three prepared to leave the hospital, Eleanor suggested, if you'd like, why don't you come to my house? It's spacious, and I could help with the baby. Darla and Mac exchanged glances and nodded. 1 year later, Eleanor's mansion was filled with laughter. In the garden, their toddler played under Darla and Mac's watchful eyes, while Eleanor sat on the porch, happily observing the scene. Hey, Mom, Darla approached Eleanor with the baby in her arms. It was a form of address unimaginable a year ago. Today is Nellie's birthday. Eleanor smiled gently. Yes, it is. She would be happy. Mac joined them, and they took a family photo. It was placed on the living room shelf next to Nellie's picture. That night, Darla wrote in her diary. A year ago, I was in despair. But now, I have a loving family. Even with one arm, I can live strongly. In fact, it has become the source of my strength. My relationship with Eleanor is slowly but surely improving. We're not perfect yet. We still argue sometimes. But we're trying to understand each other. That's what matters. Nellie. Mom. I wish I could have known you better. But your strength surely lives on in me. And through Eleanor, who was your best friend, I'm gradually learning about you. When this child grows up, I'll tell them everything. About their grandmother, and about you. Our family's history. Then they too will discover the strength within them. There will be more challenges ahead. But I'm not afraid anymore. I have my family. And I have faith in myself. I'll keep moving forward, one step at a time. This is my life story. Darla closed her diary and looked out the window. The full moon gently illuminated the garden. She took a deep breath, feeling a comfortable tiredness as she headed to bed. Tomorrow would bring another new day. New challenges and new joys awaited. Darla was ready to embrace them all. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, laughter echoed through Eleanor's spacious garden. Careful, Trey. Darla's voice called out. She sat on the lawn, watching her 2-year-old son. Trey spread his small arms wide, chasing butterflies. Mac came out to the garden with cold lemonade. Is anyone thirsty? Eleanor rose from the porch and walked over gracefully. Thank you, Mac. The 3 adults sat in the shade while Trey continued running around the garden. It's hard to believe, Darla murmured. 2 years since that day. Mac gently squeezed his wife's hand. It is. So much has happened. Eleanor watched her grandson as she spoke. We've all changed so much. Indeed, they had transformed over these 2 years. Darla had regained her confidence and started working at a nonprofit supporting people with disabilities. Mac was enjoying his role as a father while succeeding in his career. And Eleanor had shed her armor of prejudice, transforming into a warm grandmother. You know, Darla suddenly said, I'm thinking of going back to work. Mac looked surprised but quickly smiled. That's wonderful. Eleanor nodded. You can do it, I know you can. Brushing her hair back with her prosthetic arm, Darla said somewhat shyly, thank you. But I'm worried about Trey. I'll watch him, Eleanor quickly offered. Not every day, but whenever you're working. Darla looked at Eleanor, tears welling up. Really? Thank you. Mom. Eleanor's eyes moistened at those words. Trey ran over and jumped into Darla's lap. Mama, I caught a butterfly. Darla hugged her son and kissed his hair. That's wonderful, Trey. The family of 4 spent a quiet moment in the twilight garden. Their past pain and struggles had become the foundation of their strength. Darla looked up at the sky and whispered in her heart, Mom. Nellie. We're okay. I can feel you watching over us. We'll keep walking forward together as a family. As the sun set, they headed back inside. On the living room shelf, next to Nellie's photo, sat their new family portrait. It seemed to reflect the past, present, and hope for the future. Tomorrow would bring another new day. Challenges and joys all awaited them. But now, they had nothing to fear. Because they had each other. And this story isn't an ending, but a new beginning. My name is Lily Montgomery, and I'm 10 years old. Outside my window stretches the beautiful townscape of Greenwich. From my second-floor room in our grand mansion in the Belle Haven district, I can see the rose garden my mother loved so dearly. White, pink, and deep crimson roses glow softly in the twilight. Perhaps I should say, glowed in the past tense. It's been a year since the accident, and Mother no longer tends to the roses. Only a hired gardener comes once a week to maintain them. Yet the roses my mother nurtured with such care continue to bloom beautifully, as if they remember her love. As I took off my Greenwich Academy uniform and hung it up, I was reflecting on my day. I got a perfect score on my math test. But whereas before, I could have shown it to Mother for praise. Father would have patted my head and said with a smile, "That's my little genius." "Lily, good night," called Rebecca, my new mother, from downstairs. She's Father's second wife, and I've been living with her since losing my parents. Though she was kind at first, I feel she's been changing little by little lately. But that's another story. There seems to be something cold mixed into her voice now. I took out the pendant containing my parents' photo from my small jewelry box. Edward and Catherine, they were the most wonderful parents in the world to me. The photo was taken during a picnic in Central Park. Father had made time between his work, and we enjoyed the spring weather while eating Mother's special sandwiches. Father was a partner at a major law firm. He was always gentle and put family above all else. He spent every holiday with us and never missed any of my piano recitals. No matter how busy his day was, he always came to my room at night to give me a goodnight kiss. My precious treasure, he would call me. I can still hear his voice. Mother worked as a pediatrician at Boston Children's Hospital. She was intelligent and kind, unable to ignore anyone in need. People say I inherited my large blue eyes from her. On her days off, we would play piano together, and she taught me Mozart and Chopin. Music is the language of the heart, Mother used to say. Even now, when I play the piano, I can feel her warmth. Dad, Mom. With an aching heart, I remembered that day. A rainy night, on the way back from Boston to New York. The accident with the large truck. When the police came to the house, I was still alone with Rebecca, Father's second wife. I can never forget her expression at that moment. Rather than grief, there seemed to be some other emotion there. Rebecca was a former model who had once graced magazine covers. I heard she met Father at a party for models and decided to marry after just 3 months. That was 2 months before the accident. She's 35, but looks younger than in her photos. She loves branded clothes, shoes, and accessories, the complete opposite of Mother. But I have another important family member, Aunt Sarah, Mother's sister. She runs a real estate company and lives 15 minutes away by car from our house. She's been watching over me as promised to Mother. Before the accident, Mother had told Aunt Sarah, if anything happens, please take care of Lily. Lately, I've had fewer chances to see Aunt Sarah. Rebecca keeps saying we're busy and won't let me meet her. Our weekend brunches with Aunt Sarah are increasingly being refused with, we have plans. Even though I used to be at the top of my class at private school, my grades have been slipping lately. My teachers are worried, and Mrs. Brown, my homeroom teacher, kindly asked, is something troubling you? After school, I can't play with my best friend Abigail as much as before. Rebecca says studies come first, but I feel there's more to it than that. Now, only Rebecca and I live in this large mansion. It's the house my maternal grandfather left us. It's an elegant colonial-style building that stands out even in this neighborhood. I heard there's also a trust fund and a chain of jewelry stores, with grandfather's estate worth about $10 million. Until I turn 21, it's managed as trust property. Recently, Rebecca has been frequently taking out documents, but she won't show them to me. At night, I sometimes hear unknown men's voices. Rebecca's phone conversations. Words like, just a little longer, and everything will work out, drift up from downstairs. Holding the pendant close to my heart, I carefully tucked away my memories of my parents. Outside the window, the evening breeze stirred the rose petals. The roses, infused with Mother's love, seemed to be watching over me. Good night, Dad, Mom. Tomorrow will begin another day. Life alone with Rebecca. But I have the strength inherited from my parents. And Aunt Sarah, who's always watching over me from afar. Believing in that, I closed my eyes. In the darkness, I felt as if Mother's rose fragrance was gently enveloping me. The end of summer is approaching. While watching the sunset changing colors through the large living room window, I was writing recent events in my diary. The blue leather-bound diary Mother left me. This is the one thing Rebecca can't take away. It's been 399 days since my parents' accident. Rebecca's behavior has changed again. Indeed, it was different at first. Right after my parents' accident, Rebecca played the perfect stepmother. Even Mrs. Parker from next door praised her, saying, "What a wonderful person." She would make my favorite chocolate pancakes and take me shopping on holidays. But perhaps it was all superficial. The changes began gradually. It started with small things. "You're 10 now, you should clean your own room." That might have been reasonable. But gradually, the demands increased. Preparing breakfast, putting away laundry, cleaning up after dinner. When Mother was alive, these were all adult responsibilities. "Lily, you're not a child anymore." I felt Rebecca's voice growing colder. Her attitude changed especially when Aunt Sarah came to visit. "Today isn't good. Lily is busy with homework. We have other plans." The reasons varied, but the result was the same. Days went by without seeing Aunt Sarah. Even phone calls were now monitored, with Rebecca always standing beside me. "Aunt Sarah, I'm fine. I'm doing well." While saying this, my voice trembled. I wanted to scream, "Help me." But feeling Rebecca's sharp gaze, I had to swallow those words. Changes appeared at school too. Plans with my best friend Abigail were repeatedly cancelled. Study at home after school. This is no time to be playing with friends. My grades at Greenwich Academy gradually declined. Math, where I always got perfect scores, now barely reached the 80s. Mrs. Brown watches me with worried eyes. "Lily, if something's troubling you, you can always talk to me." But how could I explain? About a stepmother who appears perfect on the surface but is slowly cornering me behind closed doors. At night, Rebecca's behavior changed even more. Phone calls with unknown men. Fragments of conversation reaching my ears. "Yes, lawyer. Have you checked the documents?" "Yes, about the inheritance. Since she's still a child. So it's possible to change the trust fund administrator." I trembled in my room. The inheritance. The property inherited from grandfather. Was that Rebecca's true objective all along? One night, from behind the stairs, I overheard Rebecca's conversation with an unknown man. $5 million. That's the total amount of the trust fund. We shouldn't need to wait until Lily turns 21. If the authority is transferred to me as guardian. My diary nearly slipped from my hands. I felt I could finally see Rebecca's true nature clearly. The next day, when I returned from school, unfamiliar documents lay on the living room table. A law firm's letterhead. Complex documents about estate management. And a space for my signature. "Ah, you're back." Rebecca's voice came from behind. Under her usual elegant smile, I sensed something cold lurking. What is this? Just documents. They're necessary for your future. At that moment, I remembered Mother's words. Lily, when making important decisions, always consult with Aunt Sarah. After showing Aunt Sarah. Before I could finish those words, Rebecca's expression transformed. How many times do I have to tell you? There's no need to consult Sarah. It was the first time I'd heard such an uncontrolled scream. The elegant mask had fallen away in that instant. That night, clutching Mother's pendant tightly, I picked up the phone. Just as I was about to dial Aunt Sarah's number, I heard Rebecca's footsteps coming up the stairs. I quickly turned off the light and slipped into bed. But my heartbeat was so strong, it felt like it was echoing throughout the room. Tomorrow, I must contact Aunt Sarah. I felt like time was running out. Outside the window, Mother's roses swayed in the night wind, as if warning me of something. That morning was colder than usual. October had begun, and Greenwich's streetscape was starting to change into autumn colors. Mother's rose garden too was in its final blooming season. It was the day for Johnson, the gardener's weekly maintenance, but Rebecca had turned him away, saying, "Not today." At the breakfast table, I was silently eating my toast. Unusually, Rebecca wore a black pantsuit instead of her elegant silk gown. She seemed to have some important plans. "Lily, let's skip school today." At these sudden words, I nearly dropped my toast. "But I have a math test today." "It's fine. I've already contacted your teacher. Today is a very important day for your future." Rebecca's voice sounded sweet, but her eyes weren't smiling. On the table lay the familiar stack of documents, the inheritance-related papers I was asked to sign yesterday. "Listen, Lily." Rebecca moved her chair closer to me. Her sweet perfume wafted over. "These were prepared with your best interests in mind. Just sign these documents, and everything will work out. You won't have to worry about anything and can live a wonderful life." Even at 10 years old, I could sense something lurking behind those words. The intuition Mother left me seemed to be warning of danger. But this is about the inheritance. Just formal documents. They only give me, your guardian, a little more authority. Rebecca's voice grew stronger. I clutched Mother's pendant. "No. This is what Mom and Dad left for me." In that instant, Rebecca's expression changed completely. What an impudent child. What would you know? The sound of her striking the table echoed through the dining room. It was an expression I'd never seen before. The elegant mask had completely fallen away, revealing a different person underneath. 13 years. I've waited 13 years for this day. At Rebecca's frantic scream, I jumped from my chair. Modeling jobs decreasing year by year, savings depleted, credit card payments. But this was supposed to solve everything. Everything should have worked out with marrying Edward. If only that accident hadn't happened. My trembling hands reached for my cell phone. But Rebecca was faster. "Who are you trying to call?" "Sarah." "It's too late. I won't let you see that woman again. She'll only get in the way." Outside the window, the wind was getting stronger. Mother's roses were swaying violently. "Please, Rebecca. I'm scared." Scared? This is just the beginning. Now, sign it. Or else. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Who? No. Rebecca froze for a moment. The doorbell rang again. Don't move. Make a sound and you'll regret it. Rebecca grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the kitchen's back door to the yard. Outside, the day was already growing dark, and the cold autumn wind enveloped us. Over there. Rebecca pointed to an old storage shed. It was the wooden shed Father used to keep his tools in, about 30 yards from the house and surrounded by hedges at the back. No. I don't want to go. Despite my desperate resistance, Rebecca dragged me mercilessly to the shed. I was surprised by her strength, unimaginable from her usually elegant demeanor. Think about what you've done in here. The shed door opened, and dusty air enveloped me. It was dark inside, with only 2 small ventilation windows. Tools and gardening equipment cast eerie shadows. Please, let me out. My screams were futile as the heavy door slammed shut. From outside came the sound of a key turning. This old wooden door couldn't be opened from the inside. Rebecca. Please. No response. Instead, I heard the sound of liquid being poured. Then the strike of a match. This is all for your own good. Rebecca's voice seemed to come from far away. Then came a clicking sound. By the time I understood the meaning of my stepmother's words, it was already too late. I didn't notice at first. But then I felt slight smoke entering through the small ventilation windows. And the sound of flames rising. Help! Someone! I desperately pounded on the door and screamed. But this storage shed was far enough from the main house. No one would hear me. The smoke gradually thickened. My eyes hurt. My throat hurt. Breathing became increasingly difficult. Mom. Dad. Clutching the pendant tightly, I trembled in the darkness. My head was spinning. Memory gradually fading. That's when it happened. Lily. Lily. A familiar voice came from somewhere. Aunt Sarah. Was it a hallucination? But that voice was definitely getting closer. Here. I'm here. Using my last strength to scream. And the moment the door burst open with a loud noise, fresh air rushed in. Lily. Stay with me. In Aunt Sarah's arms, my consciousness gradually drifted away. I could hear sirens in the distance. And Rebecca's scream-like voice. Before completely losing consciousness, I definitely saw it. A strange light shining toward Mother's rose garden. As if my parents were watching over me. The white ceiling slowly came into focus. The smell of disinfectant. Quiet machine sounds. And the warmth of a gentle hand holding mine. Lily, are you awake? At Aunt Sarah's voice, I slowly opened my eyes. A private room at Boston Children's Hospital. Where Mother used to work. Outside the window, the morning sun was gently shining. Aunt Sarah, that time. Take it slow. You're safe now. Tears glistened in Aunt Sarah's eyes. Do you remember that night? The fire? I nodded slowly. the terror in the smoke, and the memory of being rescued. But I don't remember anything after that. I was making my usual rounds, passing by. Because of my promise to my sister, I drive by at the same time every day. Aunt Sarah stroked my hair gently as she began to speak. The unusual light and smoke from the backyard. I knew immediately something was wrong. I called 911, then rushed to the storage shed. Her voice trembled. When I heard your screams, I thought my heart would stop. I somehow managed to force open the door with tools. What about Rebecca? The moment I spoke that name, I felt my body slightly trembling. She's been arrested. Caught in the act. When the police arrived, she was trying to get into her car. The air in the room became heavy for a moment. Lily, there's something I need to tell you. About Rebecca's true identity. Aunt Sarah took a deep breath and picked up a file. It wasn't medical records, but seemed to be police investigation materials. Rebecca Montgomery, real name Rebecca Harrison. She had been engaged to wealthy men 3 times before, breaking off each engagement and demanding large settlements. I listened silently. Though only 10, I could understand what this meant. She had substantial debts. Payments for luxury brands, credit card bills, estimated at over $50,000. And her modeling work was decreasing year by year. Outside the window, a small bird perched on a branch and chirped. Marriage to Edward, your father, was her last chance. But the unexpected accident ruined her plans. That's when she set her sights on your inheritance. The inheritance. Repeating those words, I clutched the pendant containing my parents' photos. The nurses had carefully kept it safe for me. She had planned it from the beginning. After Edward's death, she tried to gain control of the inheritance as your guardian and make it her own. But when you refused to sign the documents. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Excuse me. Detective Bradley quietly entered. He was a detective from Greenwich Police Department's Major Cases Unit, a gentle-looking middle-aged man. Lily, how are you feeling? I nodded slightly. We won't need your testimony. We have sufficient evidence. The detective smiled kindly and took out some documents. This is the indictment for Rebecca Montgomery. Attempted first-degree murder, child abuse, arson. What's the prison sentence? Aunt Sarah asked. A minimum of 15 years. No possibility of parole. Also, a restraining order will be issued to protect the victim. A sigh of relief filled the room. We found one more crucial piece of evidence. The detective pulled out new documents. A diary discovered in the suspect's apartment. In it, she wrote about the day of the accident. Aunt Sarah and I caught our breath. The day of my parents' accident. Yes. She knew about the accident in advance. Moreover, the detective paused, as if choosing his words carefully. It appears she deliberately interfered with Edward's driving. She called his cell phone claiming an urgent matter, making him hurry in the rain. No. Aunt Sarah's voice trembled. While we lack definitive evidence, her diary contains entries saying, according to plan, and now everything will be mine. I stared at my parents' photo. The accident, might not have been coincidental. That realization made my chest tighten. Sensing my distress, the detective changed the subject. There are also some matters about the future we need to discuss. He pulled out new papers. Sarah, the court is already moving to approve you as Lily's official guardian. Tears welled up in my eyes at those words. Also, regarding the estate management, all authority will be transferred to Sarah. It will be properly managed as trust property until Lily turns 21. Outside the window, the birds' spring songs grew even more lively. Lily. Aunt Sarah held my hand firmly. From now on, I will absolutely protect you. It's my promise to Catherine. Aunt Sarah. In my aunt's arms, I felt truly safe warmth for the first time in a long while. A year has passed since then. We live in a new house in Greenwich's Bellhaven district. With the help of Mr. Johnson, the gardener, we were able to transplant all of Mother's roses. They're blooming beautifully again this year. My grades at Greenwich Academy have returned to normal. I can play with my best friend Abigail again. Every Sunday, we have a tradition of enjoying brunch together. The aroma of Aunt Sarah's special pancakes fills the house. Sometimes Mrs. Parker from next door joins us for pleasant conversation. We've begun sorting through Mother's jewelry collection bit by bit. Each piece holds memories of her. Whenever Aunt Sarah tells me, "This was especially precious to your sister," I remember Mother's gentle smile. Lily, today is church support group day. At Aunt Sarah's voice, I begin getting ready. It's a gathering for children who have lost their parents. By sharing experiences with friends I've met there, I feel I'm growing stronger little by little. I continue weekly trauma counseling. Nancy, my therapist, taught me that painful memories can eventually be overcome. Indeed, the terrifying memories of the storage shed are gradually fading. At night, lying in bed, I look at my parents' photo. Dad, Mom. I'm doing my best. Outside the window, Mother's roses sway silently in the moonlight. Surely my parents are watching over me from somewhere. As Aunt Sarah promised, we're together from now on. Blood ties have the power to overcome any crisis. And the strength I inherited from my parents, along with Aunt Sarah's love, supports my new life. I remember Mother's words. Lily, family bonds can never be broken, no matter what. She was right. Rebecca tried to take everything from me, but the truly important thing, family bonds, couldn't be stolen by anyone. Good night, Dad, Mom. I gently kissed my parents' photo and closed my eyes. Tomorrow will begin another new day. But this time, with my real family. My name is Rebecca Watson. I'm 35 years old, just an ordinary interior designer. Though I must say, the definition of ordinary has changed quite a bit over these past 2 years. Mom, I woke up early again today. At 7 in the morning, my daughter Emma burst into my room with her usual energetic voice. She's a second grader, 7 years old. She loves ballet and has such a friendly personality. Our mornings always begin with Emma's cheerful voice. While I quickly brush her long brown hair and help her change into her uniform, Emma chatters nonstop about her dreams from last night and today's classes. Hey Mom, I think I'm going to get a perfect score on today's math test." Looking at her confident expression, I can't help but feel that I made the right decision to raise her on my own. Since our divorce 2 years ago, we've been living together in a quiet residential area of Scottsdale. I received our 2-story house facing the large park in the divorce settlement. Maintaining the lawn and planting seasonal flowers has become my hobby now. That said, Emma's father David remains a good supporter and understanding presence in our lives. As a successful IT company executive, he faithfully pays child support and tuition, and never misses his twice-monthly visits. His company was even recognized as one of Phoenix's fastest-growing businesses last year. "Emma, Dad's going to take you to Desert Ridge Marketplace this weekend. Isn't that exciting?" Emma's face instantly lit up as she munched on her toast at the dining table. Even after the divorce, David has taken his role as a father very seriously. Emma spends time with him from Saturday morning until Sunday evening. Sometimes they visit the Arizona Science Center, or go shopping for toys at the mall. And his new wife, Ashley, has been playing the role of an ideal stepmother to Emma. Ashley is 33 years old and a former kindergarten teacher. She's a woman with a gentle smile and deep understanding of children. After marrying her, David built a new family. Ashley has a bright and sociable personality, and she dotes on Emma as if she were her own daughter. She actively participates in school events and is well regarded by Emma's teachers. However, I heard that she's been undergoing fertility treatments for the past 2 years. Apparently, she regularly visits Phoenix Children's Hospital, and sometimes shows signs of fatigue. "Rebecca, would it be alright if I came to watch Emma's ballet recital?" Ashley made such a request the other day. While I appreciated her kindness, I remember feeling somewhat uncomfortable. In the end, I said, "Of course," and Ashley smiled happily. Weekday mornings pass by in a rush. After seeing Emma off to school, I head to my office near Kierland Commons. My work as an interior designer is fulfilling and has become a major support in my new life after divorce. Recently, I've been assigned more projects in luxury residential areas, which has helped ease my financial worries. Sometimes during lunch breaks, I drive by Emma's school. Secretly watching my daughter play with her friends in the schoolyard through the fence has become my private joy. Seeing her run around energetically reassures me that the divorce hasn't negatively affected her. "Mom, my ballet teacher praised me today." In the evening, Emma happily reports this to me as we drive home from the ballet studio in Paradise Valley. Watching my daughter dance gracefully in her leotard brings me incomparable happiness. She'll be performing as a central member of her class in next month's recital. In the evenings, we prepare a simple dinner together, finish homework, and take baths. The 30 minutes before bedtime are always reserved for reading picture books. Emma loves fantasy stories and gets completely absorbed in tales about wizards and fairies. True, our life might not be perfect. But Emma's healthy growth is my greatest joy. Even after the divorce, David and I maintain an amicable relationship, and Ashley acts as an understanding stepmother. Yes, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Our neighborhood boasts one of the best safety records in Arizona. On holidays, neighborhood children play outside while adults enjoy barbecues in their yards. Who could have imagined that such peaceful daily life would turn into terror? We had no way of knowing that an unnoticed madness was creeping into our peaceful daily life. At that time, I had no way of knowing about the darkness lurking behind Ashley's perfect smile. That day was supposed to be just another ordinary Friday. A light autumn rain was dampening the parking lot at Kierland Commons. After buying Emma's winter clothes at the weekend sale-filled shopping center, we headed home. The purplish evening sky reflected in the windshield. Our shopping bags contained a light blue coat Emma had chosen, her favorite unicorn sweater, and new leg warmers for next month's ballet recital. "I want to show this coat to Dad and Ashley too." Emma's voice saying this brought a warm atmosphere to the car. During a red light, I glanced at Emma in the back seat through the rearview mirror. She had her seatbelt properly fastened and was exchanging messages with friends on her smartphone. "Mom," Emma's small voice suddenly called out. Unlike her usual cheerful tone, there was something anxious about it that made me peer into the rearview mirror. "I feel like someone's watching us." Those words sent a chill down my spine. It's unusual for a 7-year-old to express such anxiety. Emma isn't a timid child at all. Rather, she's bold and sociable for her age. Just last week, she led her classmates to win first place in a relay race at the school sports day. For such a daughter to be frightened. "What do you mean, Emma?" "The same car has been following us since we left the Kierland Commons parking lot." Checking the mirror, I could indeed see a silver SUV maintaining a considerable distance behind us. Looking closer, it was a Lexus RX 350, the same model Ashley had recently bought. Normally, I wouldn't have paid it any attention, but combined with my daughter's words, the sense of unease amplified. "And?" Emma hesitated before continuing. "I smelled Ashley's perfume when someone walked past our car in the parking lot." In that moment, something clicked in my mind. The recent feelings of discomfort, Ashley's excessive interest, and now this SUV. Last week at the ballet studio too, Ashley had been in the parking lot after the lesson for some reason. She had explained it as, just passing by, but acting on instinct, I signaled and pulled over to the shoulder behind a large commercial facility. Only a few large trucks were parked nearby, with no people in sight. "Emma, wait here for a moment. Keep the doors locked." Before getting out, I activated my smartphone's camera. The thought that it might be needed as evidence flashed through my mind. Outside was chilly, with light rain dampening my neck. I shivered slightly in the cold rain, unusually harsh for a Phoenix autumn. As I slowly walked around the car, my eyes caught sight of a small blue LED light blinking beneath the tire. Reaching out, I found a small tracking device magnetically attached. It was a sophisticated GPS tracker. While these are easily available online, its precision took my breath away. I desperately suppressed the paralyzing fear. I couldn't panic. I had to protect Emma. Stay calm. While taking photos of the evidence with my smartphone, I was considering my next move. Should I call the police? But would they act on this? What priority would they give to a report about finding a suspicious tracking device? And most importantly, if it really was Ashley, what would happen to David? How would this affect Emma? Just then, I heard a truck engine in the distance. Looking up, I saw a large truck preparing to leave from a nearby logistics center. The side of the truck had Mexico written on it, with Nogales shown as the destination. It was a split-second decision. I removed the tracker and hurried to the back of the truck. Making sure no one was watching, I attached the device to the underside of the truck in the same way. My heart was pounding, but my hands moved with surprising steadiness. "It's okay, Emma." Back in the car, I smiled at my daughter while desperately trying to control my trembling voice. "I just needed to check something on the car. Let's go home now." That night, after putting Emma to bed as usual, I was watching the news in the living room. Emma had fallen into a deep sleep after I read her Sleeping Beauty, and I had just started to feel a bit relieved looking at her peaceful sleeping face. That's when the news about a truck explosion near the Mexican border came on. Tonight around 8 p.m., a large truck exploded near the Arizona-Mexico border. Fortunately, there were no casualties, but the trailer was severely damaged and part of the cargo caught fire. Firefighters are continuing their efforts to extinguish the blaze. As I watched the burning truck on screen, I felt the blood drain from my face. That tracker wasn't just a tracking device. What had been planted on our car? Could it have been a bomb? No way. Just as those words fell from my lips, the doorbell rang. The clock showed 11 p.m. Who could it be at this hour? Looking through the peephole, I saw Ashley standing there with her perfect smile. She had a luxury brand handbag on her shoulder. What could be inside it? The worst scenarios began flooding my mind. Thinking of Emma sleeping upstairs, I reached for the doorknob with trembling hands, keeping the door chain in place. Ashley's voice came through the door. "Rebecca, I need to talk to you. Would you open the door?" Her voice was wrapped in its usual kindness. But I could clearly sense the madness lurking beneath it. I started recording on my smartphone's camera and opened the door slightly, keeping the chain on. "What brings you here so late?" I tried to maintain my usual tone of voice. "I'm sorry for coming so suddenly. But I really needed to talk." Ashley continued with her perfect smile intact. "It's about Emma." At that moment, I heard a sound from upstairs. Had Emma woken up? I saw Ashley's expression distort for just a second. "It's too late tonight. Let's talk tomorrow." As I tried to close the door, Ashley's hand stopped it. The door chain creaked. "I deserve to be a mother too." Her voice suddenly dropped lower. "I tried for 2 years. But all my babies, they all died. Yet Emma." Just then, police sirens pierced the quiet residential neighborhood. The blood drained from Ashley's face. "I've already contacted the police," I announced, desperately controlling my shaking voice. "I've sent them everything, the photos of the tracker, the security camera footage, all of it." It was actually a lie. But the gamble paid off. Ashley's expression transformed before my eyes. I was supposed to be the perfect mother. She began shouting hysterically. "You get all of David's child support. We had to manage the fertility treatment costs ourselves. And yet Emma is yours." I heard police cars stopping in front of the house. Then, the sound of multiple officers rushing over. "Suspect Ashley Watson. Don't move." Events unfolded rapidly. Ashley was taken into custody without resistance. Another tracking device was found in her handbag. "Mom?" Emma's anxious voice came from the top of the stairs. "It's all right, Emma. We're safe now." The police questioning continued until late into the night. In the interrogation room at the Phoenix Police Department, everything came to light. Ashley had been undergoing fertility treatments for 2 years but experienced 3 miscarriages. As she became mentally cornered, her obsession with Emma intensified. The device planted on our car was indeed an explosive. Her brother was a former military member with knowledge of explosives. He had only provided technical advice, unaware of his sister's true intentions. Most shocking was the fact that this wasn't the first attempt. Over the past 2 months, she had planted tracking devices on our car 3 times. Each time, they had either fallen off without my notice or run out of battery. When we returned home exhausted before dawn, David was waiting at our front door. "Rebecca, I'm so sorry." His voice shook with tears. "I should have noticed. It's not your fault." I gave him a tired smile. No one could have predicted this. Emma was already asleep in her father's arms. Her sleeping face was peaceful, as if she'd never experienced any nightmare. A few days later, David contacted me. Ashley had been examined by a psychiatrist and deemed in need of treatment. He expressed his commitment to keeping the promises made during our divorce even more strongly. "From now on, Emma comes first." I nodded deeply at those words. True, our family might not be normal. But each of us understands our role and puts Emma's happiness first. Maybe that's our new normal. That weekend was Emma's ballet recital. Watching my daughter dance on stage, I made a vow. Whatever form it takes, I will protect this child's happiness. A month has passed since the incident. Phoenix's winter is wrapped in gentle sunshine. I was facing Ashley in the visiting room at Phoenix Children's Hospital. I'd heard she was admitted to the psychiatric ward and receiving treatment, but this was my first time seeing her. "Rebecca, thank you for coming." Ashley's voice had lost its former strength. Wearing the hospital-issued white gown, she looked like a different person. "I'm truly sorry for what I tried to do to you and Emma." Sincere tears fell from her eyes. According to her attending physician, Ashley had been diagnosed with severe postpartum depression. The grief from 3 miscarriages, combined with hormonal imbalances, and the financial pressure from fertility treatments had pushed her to the edge. "I just wanted to be a perfect mother." Ashley covered her face with trembling hands. But that wish became distorted. I quietly touched her hand. "Ashley, you're not alone anymore. You can get proper help." Leaving the hospital after the visit, complex emotions swirled in my chest. Hatred, fear, sympathy. All mixed together, impossible to settle into a single feeling. When I returned home, David was playing a board game with Emma in the living room. Such scenes had become rare after the divorce, but since the incident, he had adjusted his work schedule to spend more time with Emma. "Dad, if you move this piece, you'll win." Emma's bright voice rang out. Though we had worried about the incident's impact, Emma proved remarkably resilient. According to the school counselor, consistent support from both parents had greatly contributed to her mental stability. Rebecca. After the game ended, David faced me with a serious expression. I've decided to change the management structure at the company. I want to make more time for Emma. Strong determination showed in his eyes. Success in the IT industry had certainly brought him wealth and fame. But it had also taken away time with his family. That reflection led to his current decision. And David continued, carefully choosing his words. I'll cover all of Ashley's treatment costs. And I want to establish a trust fund for Emma's future. That proposal carried deep meaning of atonement. Indeed, the financial burden of fertility treatments had been one factor behind Ashley's abnormal behavior. David was trying to take responsibility for everything. The following weekend, a new apartment building was completed in Paradise Valley's luxury residential area. It was a property David had purchased, just 10 minutes from our house. He decided to live there alone. It's better to be close by, for Emma's sake. He explained while we helped with the move. Ashley's treatment is expected to take longer than anticipated. While waiting for her recovery, David chose to return to single life. It was a decision made to prioritize his relationship with Emma. Dad, will you make a room for me in the new house too? Emma looked around the apartment interior with great interest. Of course. Should we decorate it in your favorite colors? David gently patted his daughter's head. Watching this scene, I found myself smiling. True, this might be far from the ideal family form. But perhaps our own happiness exists within this imperfect shape. As evening fell, the three of us stood on the balcony as the Paradise Valley cityscape was dyed in sunset colors. Hey Mom. Emma suddenly asked. Will Ashley get better? That question left both David and me momentarily speechless. But Emma's pure compassion, reflected in her eyes, gave us a sense of salvation. I'm sure she will. I answered while hugging my daughter. It might take time, but she'll definitely get better. Until then, we need to do our best too. David nodded quietly. A new determination showed in his eyes. In this past month, we've lost many things. The illusion of a perfect family, peaceful daily life, and unconditional trust in each other. But at the same time, we've found important things. True strength, a forgiving heart, and above all, family bonds that can support each other even in imperfection. Emma stood between her parents, gazing up at the sunset. Her profile looked as if she were peering into the future. Our story doesn't end here. A new chapter is just beginning. Mom, Dad. Emma held both her parents' hands. Will you come to my ballet recital next week? Of course. Absolutely. Our answers naturally overlapped. As we begin to explore our new family form, Emma provides us with a warm guiding light. Not striving for perfection, but supporting each other just as we are. That's the path we've chosen. As the sun set, we headed home with smiles on our faces. Tomorrow will bring another new day. And we'll keep moving forward, one step at a time.